base ingredient needed for many items, including a few of my Thanksgiving dishes, will be sugar. While the majority of sugar is made from the sugarcane plant, 20% of the world's sugar is made from sugar beets. In the 1700s, it was discovered that sugar could be produced from beets as an alternative to sugarcane. However, it wasn't until the British blockade of mainland Europe during the Napoleonic Wars in the 1800s that sugar beets rose in popularity, allowing the locally grown alternative to the now blocked importation of sugarcane. Even today, almost 90% of sugar in Europe is grown locally. Back when I originally made my sandwich from scratch, I attempted to make my own sugar from sugar beets. However, they failed to grow. Still needing a new source of sugar, I wanted to approach the sugar beets again, this time at one of the largest sugar growing regions in the US, western Minnesota. So Minnesota is the largest sugar beet producer in the US, and if you go to any store here in Minnesota, any white sugar you get is probably from the sugar beet. And behind me, you'll see one of the factories where they turn sugar beets into white sugar. And the process is basically grinding up the beets and separating them into the molasses and to the white sugar. And unlike with sugarcane, the molasses isn't really used for any food-based product because it has kind of a bitter taste. So this is actually a research field by the North Dakota State University and the University of Minnesota, and they use it for researching various varieties of the plant and their resistance to disease. These are some of the research ones they've done, and you can see these have started to rot a little bit. These are some of the variations that aren't quite as disease resistant. This is what the disease will do to it. It'll cause them to rot prematurely. And it's kind of bad if they start to rot because it kind of causes the whole pile to start to rot. Around here there's giant piles of rotten beets that didn't quite make the cut. I'm gonna get a month worth of food if I give myself diabetes. That's a pretty good one. Big old beet. Yep. That was rotten. All right, so I got what I need. I'm gonna take off. I think I'm gonna have beets tonight for dinner. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the rest of the week. I'm gonna have lots of beets. After a long drive to Fargo, picked up a few sugar beets. So now, just gotta start cutting them up. So the green part is actually edible, and it can be eaten basically like cabbage or collard greens. So that is not waste. The big one. So I'm just gonna cut it up so it has more surface area. Once chopped, I julienne them into smaller bits, so they would have lots of surface area. Then I added them to boiling water to extract the sugar. Now that we've strained it, just need to boil it down until it turns into a thick syrup. All right, so what we have here is the end result of about 4 hours of boiling the beet juice. And at this point, it's basically kind of a caramel. It's a little bit of movement to it still, so it still has some moisture. So at this point, I just kind of let it air out and dry slowly so it doesn't burn. Probably use the oven a little bit to help speed up the whole drying process until it fully crystallizes into a solid. At which point then, to break it up, I will put it into a grinder and grind the whole thing up into a fine powder. And the end result looks a bit like this. This is an earlier batch I did of some of the beet sugar. So as you can tell, it looks pretty similar to regular sugar, except it's a little bit browner. And that's because I'm not able to separate the molasses from the white sugar. So it's kind of a very dense brown sugar in a lot of ways. So I have a lot of beets, but besides just making sugar out of them, you can also eat them like regular beets. For example, I made some borscht, the famous Russian dish with beets. It doesn't have its characteristic redness because the sugar beets don't have that red pigment to it. With the amount of beets I have, I will probably be eating a lot of borscht for the foreseeable future. I don't even know if I like it.